The times they are changing. Let's invite into the stream Jen Openshaw. She is the CEO of Girls with Impact. There's a new study, a new report about Gen Z, and I'm going to give a little bit away here. One of the things that you discovered is that half of all Gen Z women, 55%, want to be their own bosses. That's a dramatic increase over the 43% in 2019. What's driving that increase?
Well, I think women, first off, want a real shot at the brass ring, right? They see so many social issues taking place right now, and they really want to drive that change. The vast majority of Gen Zers said, we really want to personally drive innovation. So whether it's climate change or diversity, racism, they want to take direct action. And, I think still women, in fact, in our survey show that they still don't see themselves quite at the same compensation level as men. And perhaps that's another reason they're saying, hey, I want to be my own boss. I want to drive my own destiny.
Jen, it's Julia LaRoche, and it's great to hear that more women, especially young women, are interested in entrepreneurship. We know that there are barriers for women that need to go away. When you look at venture capital funding, for example, the overwhelming majority goes to men, yet there are so many great female founders out there. How do we think about moving some of these systemic barriers, if you will, and what do you think will help change that?
Well, I think it's really early business conditioning. One of the things that we're doing with Girls with Impact is running a live online mini MBA that is allowing these young women to start ventures as early as 15, 16 years old, and we're seeing their confidence completely change. They are launching ventures to address COVID issues, climate change, LGBTQ issues. I mean, you name it, they are doing it. The other very interesting thing is we asked this generation, what would most drive your confidence? And aside from body issues, they said that personally launching a business venture would most drive their confidence. That and improving public speaking skills, which is one of the biggest fears that folks have. But that's sort of interesting to see the two go hand in hand for women. So wanting to be their own bosses, but also saying that launching a product or business would most impact their confidence. And it really can happen very early.
What about this? Nearly one half want to work for a company that does something innovative. And then you quote, though, the CEO of 6 Feet Apart, a 16-year-old teenager who says people don't go to work for the money. They want to make an impact. Now, and I'm going to ask this as the old guy who I'm not rolling my eyes because we all love having an impact on other people. But at the end of the day, companies that if 50% want to work for a company that's innovative, that company wants to make a profit. So in the real world, what does having an impact look like with a company that still needs to have a bottom line and grow earnings?
Yeah, I think they want to be at the table and they want to be heard. They also, this is a very action-driven generation. They want to be part of the solution. And so bringing them to the table is critical. A lot of HR companies, leaders will ask me, what can we do to become an employer of choice with this next generation? Number one is this generation really cares about diversity at the table. And they've actually said to us, it's not enough to just be talking about it. We want to see action. Number two is we want to be personally involved in innovation. So, companies like ForcePoint, for example, really understands that they need to have this generation at the table. Let's say they're involved in big meetings with clients or they're developing new solutions. Bring that generation to the table. Let their voice be heard. And then finally, this generation is also looking, which is not surprising with COVID, but they want a flexible and remote work environment. This is a very big change from last year. Last year, we said what's most important to you, and they wanted fun and experienced leaders. This time, they're looking for diversity and people who respect them at the workplace, but also a flexible and remote environment. So some big shifts.
Yeah, Jen, you're right. Those are big shifts, and it is interesting. And I love just kind of getting a pulse as to what the younger generations want and what they're thinking. And, as women, we deal with some of these issues. It's 2020, soon to be 2021, and we're still talking about the gender wage gap. And I'm wondering what sort of strategies or tips or how you're helping these young women have this conversation. I know I can tell you, I've had women kind of mentor me throughout my career, and it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's something we all know needs to change. Would love to kind of go inside that playbook with you.
Yeah, well, look at if you train these young people early on as we do, first of all, for companies, they're a very, very powerful talent pipeline because companies all over are saying, we want more women and we want diversity, and that's what we're building. One way, just going back to the question earlier, that companies can really both impact their own ROI, but tap into this talent pipeline is to engage their employees. So one thing we're doing right now is we're working with US Bank. And when COVID and Black Lives Matters hit, we focused some of our effort into, for example, New York and girls of color. And that's the flexibility of this kind of platform. That the old education of the world is partly of the past. We're showing that together we can train this generation very differently with a whole set of skills that they need for the modern workforce, with the confidence to lead. Really good examples this past weekend, we graduated a few hundred girls from 7 countries around the globe who over the past 10 weeks built business plans. And one girl said, I cannot believe how much I learned in 10 weeks. It's possible. And this generation really wants the tools. They've said to us, we've got the capability. We've got the digital savvy that we didn't have. We need the pathway to bring our ideas to fruition. And so when we look at some of the ventures that these young women are creating with, from a white sheet, if you will, now imagine the next stage, Julia, of them entering the venture world. It's a whole different playbook, and it's why people like Melinda Gates, frankly, should get behind this. The majority of young women who finished our program feel much more able to get in front of venture capitalists and pitch their ideas. That's the kind of training we need to bring to them.
And we look forward to having you back, say, in the first quarter of the new year to talk about the progress. But want to let everybody know, too, more than just the Gen Z 2020 survey, go to girlswithimpact.org. You can learn more about what they're doing there. Thank you, CEO Jen Openshaw, Girls with Impact, for joining us.